The second step is getting organized. And this is very important too, because this is where you're establishing the base and figuring out who's going to be the best people on your team to help you in this improvement process. So you're going to establish a self-study committee. And in that committee, we recommend that obviously you have administration. You might want to have an owner in there if they're really involved in the school. You want to obviously have teachers part of that self-study committee. And you might even consider having a parent or two on that committee. Also, you might want to have some support staff on that committee because they see a lot of things that go on in the school that could give some great feedback. Because part of the accreditation process is looking at facilities. With the parents, we're looking at the communication that the school maintains with parents. So you get a lot of different people part of that self-study committee.
And the
Next,
important thing about this self-study committee is it involves several people. The administrator should not be the only person getting organized. Teachers, staff members, parents will have much better buy-in if they feel that they had some input in how the self-study was conducted.
Absolutely. And then once you have that team, you want to start making assignments. So when you are going through this process, the self-study process, like Dr. Ray said, it's going to be a collective effort. There's going to be a lot of different voices that are having input in doing the ratings in the self-study and just giving some feedback. And it shouldn't be all on the shoulders of administration. The best schools to operate are ones that use a collective means, that have multiple people involved in that improvement process. So make assignments in that process. And then you're going to conduct the self-study. And the self-study is really to ensure that you're recognizing the strengths that you have as a school and that you understand the weaknesses that are there. There's no school that's perfect. We expect schools to find things that are going very, very well as your strengths, that you can give yourself a pat on the back. And there's some that there are obviously going to be some weaknesses that you want to really focus on. And after you list out those different weaknesses, the sum will boil up specifically to the top that you'll want to focus on initially in your school improvement process. Before I go any further, I wanted to talk about and look at that self-study. So this is what the self-study looks like, the accreditation report. You put your name in the top. It tells you exactly the step-by-step process and how to fill out this self-study, which we're talking about right now. And we'll be going over that. You're going to list out who on the committee you have that are helping you fill out this self-study. And then you fill out the institution description. Give us a brief history, how many students you have, some of the strengths and general weaknesses that you might have as a school. And then we come in and we'll fill out the visit team, whether it's a provisional accreditation or a full accreditation visit, we will fill this part out. And then this is the rating framework. So this is basically the rubric that we use throughout, and you use as your self-study team, that you use in rating each one of the indicators, whether it's exemplary, accomplished, developing, or exploratory. So none of them are negative in connotation. It just means that you might have to explore a little bit more in your weak areas, or that you've just started to implement it and you're developing that process still. Accomplished is where it's been implemented, but we could do a little bit more in the school to make sure it's fully integrated and really affecting each one of the students. Exemplary, it's something that's completely embedded throughout the school, and it's something that you would brag about, that you would talk about to your friends as you're talking about the great things that are going on in the school. So this is the first standard, the curricular program. We mentioned that already, but this is how you fill out the self-study. You would sit down with your team, maybe project this up on the wall, and as a team you would rate this indicator. The standards are aligned with the institution's mission and are clearly stated. As you sit down and talk about it as a team, you might say, yeah, we do a really, really good job with it, but we could do a little bit better. We're going to rate ourselves as accomplished. And some items of evidence that you could say that are that would show that you're meeting this indicator, that you have a mission statement, you have some curricular standards, You have a master course schedule. And then you would write some brief comments in here about why you gave this rating. So it gives the team that comes in who's going to be conducting the full accreditation visit some good background as they're there and even before they get there. And as the team comes in, as they do a site visit, they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to be sitting down as a team after visiting the school, looking at the items of evidence, and they're going to be saying, yep, we see the curricular statements, we see the mission statement, we see the master course schedule, and then they might say, we see some other things when we were talking with people through interviews. And then the team would actually write a few comments about why they gave the rating of accomplished. Or they might say, you know what, that school actually is doing an outstanding job. We're going to give them exemplary. And that often happens where we see that in schools. Sometimes it could be a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. Often it's right on par with what the school does. And that's our whole goal in coming in and doing an accreditation visit, is to verify that you did the self-study as a school correctly and appropriately.
And the nice thing about this format is you will notice side by side, here's what you say, here's what the visiting team says. And so in the case where Dr. Jacobs just said here, you rated yourself as accomplished, the visiting team said, hey, no, that's exemplary. And so that you know, here are the things that the visiting team looked at, but it's side by side. It's not like you have to go to another document. So when you receive the report back, half of it you will have already filled out. And it's the new half that the visiting team fills out. So you can see side by side and make a comparison between what you said and what the visiting team said.
Okay, let's go back. So once you conduct the self-study, the next step of being organized is again, every school will have weak and strong areas. I know that sometimes it's hard to point out weak areas, but that's what really makes the improvement process so valuable, is recognizing those weak areas so you can focus on them to make them strong. And then as you're doing the self-study, make sure that you're giving completely honest ratings so you can commend yourself for those great things that you're doing, and then focus on those weak areas to make your school the best and the strongest it possibly can. The next part as you go through your self-study is gather items of evidence. And you remember how I was clicking on the items that you could show, the items of evidence. You'll actually provide those to the team so they can review those materials to verify that rating is appropriate. And you could gather items of evidence. Usually the main way that we recommend to do it is electronic. Go onto Google Drive, make a folder for each one of the indicators, and put those items of evidence, name them specific indicators, and load them onto Google Drive. If you would like, you can do them paper-based. I would only choose one way though, either through Google Docs or OneDrive, or paper-based for people to look at. If you're doing it paper-based, we recommend that people will put them in file folders that are well organized so that the visiting team can easily go through them. And again, as you're gathering items of evidence, there's some items that may be used for more than one indicator. The mission statement will probably be used for a couple different indicators. That's not a problem at all. Just make sure that you put it in there for each indicator. And then provide a copy of each item of evidence for each indicator, regardless if it's used in another indicator. It's not a problem at all. The next part of getting organized is setting up a timeline. Because it can be easy to be overwhelmed, especially when you know that an accreditation visit is coming up. We ask schools to prepare about a year in advance so you can go through this self-study process thoroughly. So set up that timeline for this committee to follow. And the timeline should include specific meeting dates and times with a specific time that you want to finish this improvement plan. And the self-study. We always ask that schools provide the self-study, the fully completed self-study, 1 month before the visit is going to take place. The next part is, as you're getting organized, you sit down as a team, you've done your self-study, which does a lot of curricular parts. There's a specific standard in there that's related to facilities, we want to make sure that everyone also conducts a facilities review. And I think this is where the support staff provide a valuable role, who can also, with administration or with teachers, go through and conduct a facilities review. And we have that document in our institution handbook. And this was this has taken a lot of time to develop and then also refine, as we've had some excellent consultants help us make sure that these items that are in the facility checklist are going to help you ensure that the facilities are totally up to date, and that they're going to be able to provide a quality school program for each one of your students. Dr. Ray, do you have some more things to add to the facility checklist?
Yes, I think it's really important as you go through this list to note that these are things that we find in the best managed schools. Some of these are requirements. For instance, if you look under general institution, it has a license from the Ministry of Education. That's a have to, that's not a maybe. And so those kinds of things, but carefully look at that. Then the visiting team will look at these also. You might not see some things that somebody coming from the outside might see. And this is all in an attempt to help you understand the importance of these issues. And the list is long, but I think if you follow this list carefully, you'll find that it will help you develop the best facility possible.
And we've had some brand new schools, as they're developing plans to build their schools, go through these safety lists and ensure that they're implementing all of these in their new facilities. But as an administrator, because I think most of the people on here today and watching this are administrators, you'd be able to go through this list, even though it might seem long, pretty quickly, as you become pretty familiar and intimate with your facilities. So we have a general institution safety checklist with 18 different items. We have technology. We want to make sure that each school is providing 21st century skills for their students, and technology is a main component of teaching those skills. The classrooms. Make sure you go through your classrooms and they have all these different items in place. The science laboratories, very, very important to make sure that it's safe in the science lab. And we have some specific items in place that must be followed to ensure that students are going to be safe, because we know that a lot of the concerns and safety issues do take place in the science labs. We have a computer lab. We have an art room. We have a library or media center. And so make sure that you go through them. Restrooms, a health clinic, making sure that students are getting the health support that they need. And so make sure that you go through those. It's just a couple pages long, but it's very, very important.